Monica is a dear friend and a heart of gold. And that's what this episode's really about. It's all about self-love.
Essentially, it's about how we embody love in life and work. I'm contributing to a movement across this world where we're having happy, healthy, thriving relationships.
So it's nice how Monica's sharing some hints and tips how you can take care of yourself and then take care of others.
It's easy to put ourselves last, to be running around like a headless chicken, trying to meet all the needs of everyone and none. So for some people, it might be that they listen to a 5-minute meditation or a little podcast snippet. For some people, it might be that they do a little stretch.
So if you're thinking about how you can invest in other people, you need to invest in yourself first. So this episode will really resonate with some hints and tips about how to be your best self.
Everything that comes in your organisation comes from you. When you're embodying that, you're living that, then your organisation and your work and the outputs from the organisation will also do that.
Welcome, Monica. Thank you. It's so lovely to see you, and thank you for fitting us in your busy tour of Europe.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be in the Midlands.
Well, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but to include within the introduction, I'd like to also know why you do what you do.
Okay. So I'm Monica Douglas. I'm a love and relationship coach who essentially is about how we embody love in life and work. And my focus at the moment is really working with entrepreneurs, founders, professionals to help them to thrive in love, often after a difficult or challenging time, and to make sure that they have this sense of being looked after, supported and loved while they become more successful in their business.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's starting with then the self,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happens when you start with the self?
So, essentially, I really believe that it's important that we deserve to thrive in love. Because when we are happy, when we are in thriving, loving relationships, we're able to give more. And if you think about us as entrepreneurs and creatives, people who are disruptors and thinking about how we can contribute to life, we deserve to do that and also to be loved too.
So interesting, isn't it? Because often entrepreneurs, business owners put themselves at the bottom of the pile, even when it comes to things like salaries, financial. And there's all these kind of stabilities, but it's interesting, obviously, you're thinking love, because that's kind of almost should be the priority. What advice would you give to somebody who's maybe putting themselves at the bottom of the pile?
It's a bit of a cliche, but we can't give from an empty cup, right? So if we are filling ourselves up, we're doing the things that we need to, we're able to, it's a mindset shift because we think the more we give, the better it is for everyone. So giving is important, but we've got to fill ourselves up first. And, we're all different in this, but we do need to have time for ourselves, especially, I know we're running businesses. You and I met when we were networking together and growing our businesses. It's easy to put ourselves last, to be running around like a headless chicken, trying to meet all the needs of everyone and none, because we've not centered ourselves, we've not grounded ourselves, we've not prioritized ourselves enough that we're like, okay, this is the priority. I'm going to say yes to this. I'm going to say no to this. For now, it doesn't have to be no forever, but right now, so that I've got enough energy to get this project done and meet these needs of myself, my family, my organisation and work and my community. If we don't have enough, we burn out.
It's interesting that kind of owning that no, isn't it? 'Cause it's sometimes almost the hardest thing to do is to say no, because we want to give. And I think a lot of business owners, and I don't know if you've seen this, kind of people set up a business to find a solution to a problem. They want to give something back.
Yeah.
So actually to say no is very difficult. How would you advise somebody who is a people pleaser, someone who wants to just give?
Sometimes I get my clients to have an experiment. It's like a whole day. We start with a whole day of no, right? So when somebody asks or requests, it's like, I'm sorry, no. I can't do that right now. And just to get used to the discomfort of actually saying no. And again, it's like it can be a no for now. It doesn't mean that it's a no forever, but it creates space. And also for people to bide themselves a little bit of time rather than responding with the automatic yes, right? It's like, oh, let me just check my diary on that and I'll come back to you. Because our knee-jerk reaction, our default way of being might be to always say yes. Equally, there's some people who have a whole day of yes who are used to saying no all the time. So it all depends on what is the nature of our neurosis.
It's interesting. I tend not to surround myself with many no people. But there's lots of people out there that...
Yeah, it's a useful skill to learn.
But I think that's also in small businesses, isn't it? We don't say no that much because we're always looking for opportunities and we're always looking to see how we can create those opportunities. But if you're neglecting yourself, then you can't really fulfill them. And it's how do you find time for yourself and how do you fill your cup up?
For me, one of the non-negotiables that I have is to actually have at least 5 to 10 minutes of downtime every day, inward reflection, meditation, and also another non-negotiable is going out into nature and going for a walk. So there's these little things, and making sure I drink enough water. I've got a list of wonderful non-negotiables, and having something that makes me laugh every day. So a list of things that I know are essential to my well-being that I prioritize because I know that makes me a better person for everyone else.
I like the piece where you said to make you laugh every day because it's so important, isn't it? For somebody who's maybe feeling quite isolated, maybe they're not surrounded by fun people.
Okay, yeah.
You know, they're just surrounded by maybe work colleagues, they're surrounded by things to do with business. What advice would you give to them to try and find that fun in life?
Oh, you know what? The gift of technology is that we've got an opportunity to find things like, I know for myself, I'll watch a little bit of a comedy short, right? I love Ali Wong. She's funny. She's, just makes me laugh out loud and it's quick. And also Joanne Wright is a local comic. Find the things that will be different for everyone. If you've got your kids, you might have a little funny short on your video that you took of them doing something that automatically brings back those great feelings. It doesn't have to be, it's not rocket science, Dan. This is the thing, right? Just reminders.
Yeah, sometimes people just forget that, don't they? They're too busy listening to a podcast on, kind of sort of business or how to develop a marketing strategy. They're so focused on their kind of professional development, but then they're forgetting then some of those kind of sort of important non-negotiables, as you say, that makes them a happier, more rounded person.
Yeah, and if you've got someone who's, like I work as a relationship coach, half of my job is to remind people to honour what their feelings and their needs are, and to then use that foundation in their relationship with themselves, others, and life, right? And by connecting with me or others who are going through this on a regular basis, then it becomes part of how they live. I think none of us are meant to be here alone, right? And I think as entrepreneurs and professionals, often we can be quite isolated. So this is why I loved what we used to do in terms of the networking, because essentially it brought us into a field every week where we connected with people who had a similar vibe and energy and reminded us what was important. I mean, you have to choose who you hang out with, obviously, but it's a reminder. And by being in connection, being in relationship with that wider community, we are reminded constantly, actually, am I living the way that I want to live? Am I running my business in the way that I want to run it? Am I truly thriving or am I just surviving? And, I'm really passionate because I think those of us who have a big mission, who, I want to reach millions to help them have more loving, happy relationships, right? And doing this with you as part of that mission, right? Is to remind people what's the most important thing. You can have the most successful, in terms of the numbers, business in the world, but if you haven't got somebody to come home to who loves you and cares about you, how does that match?
So true. It's interesting to talk about your mission, because I want to know more about your vision, because I've always loved hearing your visionary outlook on life. But something that you just touched upon of kind of sort of like sharing emotions and, you know, connecting with then your feelings. For a manager, a leader, how can somebody kind of express some of those emotions, some of those feelings that maybe they want to kind of almost hide because of the status quo, or, you know, we need to kind of keep professional, as some people are kind of like, look, but then they actually are suppressing their emotions to the level that's making them unhappy. How can people kind of connect a bit more and share that with colleagues?
So I think the first thing isn't necessarily the step around sharing it with colleagues. I think the first part of it is about getting clear on where we are in our own inner ecosystem. So one of the practices that I teach people as a foundational practice is listening within. So what are you feeling, and naming what the feelings are. So we're becoming more emotionally intelligent about what we feel in a particular moment, what we feel in a certain relationship, in a certain situation. And when we're able to name those feelings and acknowledge what's going on for us, often the feelings run through us. We don't actually have to do anything with them because they've been heard, they've been acknowledged. And then the second phase of that practice is to ask ourselves, what do I need? What do I need in order to be able to function right now in this situation? And it might be, actually, I need 5 minutes break. I was talking with your team before, you know, it's like, oh, actually, I've realized that I'm not feeling quite myself. It's because I've not drank enough water today. I've been working at the desk, I've been working at the computer non-stop for 3 hours, and I've not had a break. So when we start with that, really knowing ourselves more deeply, really listening to our feelings, honoring our needs, then we can go, okay, how's this impacting on everyone else? And then we can have a meaningful conversation. If we don't do that first bit and really have that as a core skill for ourselves and capability, then having the conversation with our colleagues is meaningless, because we're not going to be really telling the truth. We're not really going to be speaking from a place that is fully grounded.
So true, isn't it? And I think by having that time to talk to yourself, but, you know, kind of away from then your screen, away from whatever the task might be, you know, kind of, as you mentioned earlier, non-negotiable is time in nature, and actually just going for a walk. Like, I love it when, you know, kind of sort of like I'll see Eleanor going off for a walk, because I know that that's kind of clearing, it's resetting. It's like a reset button, isn't it? Then when you had to restart your computer to kind of get it going again.
Yeah.
For some people who maybe work in like a busy office environment, the culture's not that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the furthest you can walk is to the coffee machine.
Yeah.
And that's the done thing. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to try and find that time, to find that space?
So it all depends on what their individual kind of learning style or preferences are. So for some people, it might be that they listen to a 5-minute meditation or a little podcast snippet. For some people, it might be that they do a little stretch or put on their favorite music or do a little jiggle. Something that moves them out of the old state to the new. For some people, they might they might have something. I'm trying not to encourage us to eat cake at work. So
Come on. I'm a man who likes cake. I'm a man who likes cake.
I'm a cake girl.
Nothing wrong with moderation there, yeah.
Okay, the nice cake or fruit. Either way, something that you know, it just enables them to like get back into the taste, the feeling. Maybe a sweet, maybe something, glass of water, something that just again changes the state and reminds them what's important, right? So it's about choosing what suits you. Like I'm all about personalized, person-centered approaches to this work. Not everything suits everyone. I mean, there's sometimes people come in and they're like, this is the way to do it. It's like, it's not going to suit everyone. It's like, what's your way of doing it is the question. What's my way, the thing that works for me? And just taking time to reflect on that sometimes is enough. And then having reminders. Oh, it's okay. It's okay to have a walk to the water cooler if you're in a corporate environment or a cubicle environment. Just go to the cubicle, go to the bathroom, do what, or go to the cooler. Do what you need to do to change your state, because it's easy to project that onto someone else as, oh, I can't do this. Sometimes you've got to claim what is it that I can do, and take the time to do that.
So when people are thinking on their personal level to start their reflection, I've spent quite a lot of time talking with you, working with others, but I look back before doing that and really getting to know you. I found it hard to ask those questions. What type of questions would you start asking yourself to kind of get that conversation going?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the core ones for me are what am I feeling? What do I need? Then and then setting up these non-negotiables for the body, the heart, the mind, the soul, and the environment. It's like, what do I need as a minimum? Because this is the other thing. We can't do everything all the time. What do I need as a minimum is a great question to ask, because it might be one thing. The minimum might be 10 minutes in nature every day. Okay. The minimum might be make sure that I drink 2 litres of water every day. It might be make sure that I get home so that I read my son a bedtime story, so I feel connected to my family. Whatever it is, and it will be different for everyone.
Nice. So going back to your vision.
Okay.
And I love how you want to connect and help people.
Yeah.
So how's the vision evolved or maybe transformed? We're all on the journey.
Yeah.
Because it's been a few years since we've caught up.
Yeah.
Tell me, where are we going?
So I'm at the space of happy, healthy, thriving relationships for everyone, because when we have that, so the biggest vision is I'm contributing to a movement across this world where we're having happy, healthy, thriving relationships. So that's the big vision, and that's me speaking to that. That's me supporting people in communities, groups, and individually. It comes down to the specifics right now. The focus is very much around entrepreneurs, professionals, and supporting them in their microcosm to thrive, have happy, healthy relationships as they grow their business and become more successful. Because these people, us, when we're happy and thriving and loved, we change the world. We transform everything, because we're the disruptors, we're the rebels, we're the ones with the big visions who are trying to collaborating and bringing together fields that have formerly been disparate and bringing them together. And when we do that, there's a tendency for us to become single-minded and one-pointed, to the exclusion of that which will nourish us, which is our loved ones, our partners, our children, our extended families. And often it feels like there's a tug of war, or shall I say a tug of love, between us being happy in our personal lives and our professional lives, and it needn't be that. We can bring those together and be happy, thriving in loving relationship, and doing that in our work as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I just think of so many business owners that I know who will sacrifice love over commercial opportunities.
Yeah.
They put money first.
Yeah.
but then money doesn't kind of create that end happiness and what they kind of aspire to do.
Yeah.
How have you seen people overcome that, and how have people kind of realign themselves to think kind of away from this capitalism and more focused around kind of love and compassion?
I think there is a sea change for many people. Like, I know a lot of my clients are people that have been incredibly successful in their work, and their one pointed focus at some level has enabled that to be, but they've got to a point where the relationships have broken down, or they've looked around them and they've realized, actually, what do I have? Do I have friends who really love and respect me as I am for who I am rather than what I have? Do I have a partner who I'm connected to, that I feel that we support each other, that we both have a shared vision? Or have I grown distant from my partner, my children, my family in order to grow this business? So they're at a turning point. Some people have had a bereavement, or they've had a health scare, and they've realized that everything that they've thought they were working for doesn't really fulfill them. And, you know, I know that from my own personal story, having come out of a 27-year relationship, having a health breakdown, and realizing that actually, who am I being in the world, and is this the person that I'm meant to be? And having a wake up and going, oh no, actually, I'm meant to be expressing myself in this way. Does how I have been living match with who I know myself to be now? And it can be really difficult, because it can mean making some very difficult decisions, which might end in the end of a relationship, the evolution of a relationship, the ending of a business. But when you do it, and you do it from a place of wanting the best for all in the system, it changes everything, and it frees up our energy. It enables us to start living in alignment and integrity with our values. And again, as I said, it changes the world around us.
And I agree, there is a real kind of change, and it's certainly with the kind of circles which I kind of sort of see, and the things which I follow and kind of connect with. You know, people are expressing their true self a lot more now, rather than kind of growing up and building a business. Certainly in the 90s and early 2000s was quite a ruthless place. Why is it important for people to, you know, when they're thinking about their leadership, to share things like vulnerabilities, compassion, you know, love, to connect with people? What benefits does that bring to them and their organisation, their people?
Great question. So let's look at the alternative. The alternative is to be in a situation where money is the bottom line, where people don't matter, they're just numbers, where we overuse our resources to the point of depletion. Now, this next generation of leaders are conscious enough that that's not sustainable. And they're conscious enough that that's not sustainable because they've started their own self-work. They've really thought, what impact do I want to have on this planet and on this next generation? And when someone is starting to think about that and factor that in as the socially responsible metrics within their business, then, and it's not just tokenism, it's like, okay, how do we impact society for good? Then again, it has this potential to change the world. It has the potential for turning around what feels like a situation that isn't very positive, that's not got the greatest prognosis, right? So we have a responsibility, and it's easier if you're in the role of the leader to shift our society than it is if you're one of the masses. So that mindset shift and recognizing what you can do with the power that you have, with the money that you have, with the influence that you have, makes a difference. And I feel that when you've stepped into that as a leader and you drive that through your organization, because everything that comes in your organization comes from you, when you're embodying that, you're living that, then your organization and your work and the outputs from the organization will also do that.
So tell me, what are your values, both on a personal level and in business, and how do they align to kind of achieve some of your visions?
My personal values are love and courage, connection and collaboration and community. So if I think about, I'm here embodying love at the highest, widest, brightest radiation that I can. And that requires courage. At the heart of the word courage is core, which is heart. And that enables us to connect and to be in relationship and community. And for me, if I do that, if I am that, if I am able to be in the space of that, then every action that I take is grounded in that. It's focused on that. That's my contribution. Being in that space of owning my values and appreciating them has enabled me to thrive in various areas of my life. And it means that there's no hard boundaries. We talked about this, this idea of work-life balance, and there's work over here and life over here. How about there's life? And part of my life is the work that I do.
For business owners, and not just even business owners, this is for anybody who's maybe kind of so immersed themselves in their career and it's kind of taken them off track, because a business opportunity can take you off track. You're serving somebody else. How could somebody kind of realign themselves with some of their core values, even if they might have been doing something which they might have, has led them almost down the wrong path?
First thing is to recognize that they're off track, right? Oh, hold on a minute. I'm not living the life that I want. Right. Whose responsibility is that? Oh, it's mine, right? What do I want to do about it? I want to realign with who I really am. I'm going to have to take some time to get to know who I am now versus who I was 20 years ago. We talked a little bit about vision earlier. So it's often that we might have an older vision or an old vision board that we wrote 10, 15, 20 years ago. And the reason why we're off track is because we're still working towards that old vision board, which is why I think it's a really good exercise to do, to look at all those journal notes that you've written and those vision boards that you've created and those visions that you've declared, and make a decision about whether they actually are the right vision for you now. And I'm a big advocate of a bonfire, right? I'm really an advocate of releasing the energy that we've locked into old ways, old ideas, so that we can create something that's fit for purpose now. That's how we get off track, is because we're in alignment with that which we thought we wanted, until we've grown and realized, oh, this isn't actually what I want now. I want this, which actually is simpler than what I thought I wanted before. It's quite interesting when you take time to listen, and what comes is often something that, oh my goodness, it's much easier and simpler than I thought to be content. I actually have what I wanted, but I haven't been noticing. I haven't been paying attention. And this is often when relationships end.
And that's so true, because you've got to listen to then the people that you're in a relationship, and you've got to understand what they want. certainly something which I did throughout then, kind of sort of the last few years of going through a pandemic, intense time with my family, young children. I spoke to them of what's our shared vision, because actually my vision is just for them to be happy, and that's all I really want. And after doing that exercise, and we've got a visual vision board up on the wall, which is generally what my family want, and I just now need to work out how I provide for that. And there's pictures of slides, there's pictures of holidays, all these wonderful things that we need to do. And as you just said, I've kind of got most of them. Where before, my image and my vision of what that was a lot grander of what my expectations were, and making a presumption of what I need to provide. And I think for so many business owners, they do almost have then this illusion that it's kind of more work, more effort, kind of a lot grander than what is generally needed for that contentment piece. How can somebody find contentment, even if they might have everything, materialistically have everything? What things could they maybe explore that they might already have to find that feeling of contentment?
So this is the thing, the material never meets the need, right? If we think it's the stuff, we're going to be sorely disappointed, because even when you get the new car, you get the new house, you get the new promotion, the feeling of satisfaction disappears quite quickly, right? The new car smell wears off, and then it becomes your car, functional, right? Even the new partner, the new partner smell. The new partner smell wears off, right?
Oh, is it?
And then
I can picture. I'm imagining some smells that have come from being in a long-term relationship already.
Yes.
And it's worn off.
It wears off, and then you have to think, okay, how can we create something, the connection that is long-standing, that's deeper, and what does contentment look like? So our current system and the marketing that we get on a moment-by-moment basis is a push for more. Like we can never be satisfied. So what would it be like if we were content, if we were satisfied, if we were able to feel like we were contributing enough? Now, so as much as there's an idea about us shifting, contributing, making the world a better place, sometimes that's about making things simpler and easier and gentler. It doesn't always have to be about more, right? And even taking the time to consider what it would feel like to be content or satisfied.
How do people challenge then this marketed lifestyle that we're surrounded by, about needing more, about looking more beautiful, about feeling richer, with materialistic items? How do people challenge that when we're surrounded by it? And I'm thinking more so for children, who don't understand any difference, haven't been through some of the hard knocks of learning the hard way, of going, why did I do that? Why did I think that the car was going to be the answer? How can people kind of navigate through this marketed lifestyle?
I think it's incredibly challenging, Dan, if I'm honest. I think the more plugged into that we are, the more at its mercy we are. So the moments that we can get that aren't about that, so it's like filling up our cup with those things that aren't dependent on the things, that are experiences of how it is to be happy, be connected, be loved, be creative. They can provide a counterbalance. And we've got to recognise that the marketing machine is huge, that we're plugged into our phones, that are constantly advertising to us, that are constantly showing us some way in which we are inadequate. And I really feel for the younger generation, because at least we are fortunate in that we lived in an era where we weren't always being mass marketed to as children. as children, we got to run outside, we got to play. You know, even the television, there were only four channels. Do you know what I mean? There was limited saturation in that world when we were growing up. But this current generation, from even before they're born, they're in that energy of the market.
So interesting, because I was just thinking there, like, luckily my daughter really loves watching iPlayer, and I love it because there's no adverts, and especially, you know, kind of sort of like with the run up to Christmas, and you know, kind of like just life in general, when you're exposed to adverts, you see a new shiny thing and you need it, and at a young age you desire it, and it can overwhelm you and take over then your life. But because she's got this kind of focus around then these wonderfully created programs, which I really value, the BBC and the way they produce, but also then they're not exposed to those communication channels of advertising. So that's really good advice, really. And what other ways could a family, you know, disconnect from some of those channels?
I mean, I really feel that the creative piece, doing things, you know, I've looked at some of the things you've got here at CoLab, like a co-created cartoon wall or comic wall, and you know, times for play. Play is the most essential gift that we have, right? And that's play off the tech, right? In whatever way, shape, or form we do it. You know, one of the things I used to love when I was little, you know, the hand clapping thing. It's like you don't need anything. You don't even need to have two hands, really. You could just you know, you're just using your body, you're doing your thing, and it's so connected because you're in the rhythm of another person. These are the things that we've forgotten, and even in pandemic times, you know, we were sensitive about even touching people, holding, you know, shaking hands, and these things are essential for us and our well-being. Like on a physical, visceral level, bringing the hugs back in, playing and sharing. And I think this is why relationships are so important to me. So as a parent, we're talking as a parent, the most important and valuable thing that you can do is be happy in your relationship with yourself and or your partner. So if you're a single parent, self is essential, right? Be happy in yourself. Feel into what you need to do to fill up your cup. If you're in a established relationship, you're married or cohabiting, don't forget you too in the raising of your children. Have a date night, reconnect, make sure that you're healthy and happy in your relationship, so your children are observing what it means to be healthy and happy in relationship. Because if you don't model it, they're not going to know it. And this is essential human interaction, off the tech, person to person, physical, emotional, mental and spiritual connection.
I suppose that can relate as well to the world of work, isn't it? Sometimes, especially, you know, the leader, the manager gets so immersed within the work and the financial KPIs that they forget about actually the community. They forget about people that are helping them achieve, you know, those kind of goals. What advice would you give to a business owner to try and create a bit more of a sense of play that you kind of touched upon, a bit more of a sense of, you know, kind of sort of a compassion and understanding within each other, so people can have some fun, people can enjoy what they're doing?
For me, I used to run a business with my former husband, family business, you know, a team of 16 people at its top. Again, it's about modeling, and it's about how the values that you integrate into your business. And it can't just be words, it's got to be how you show up in your business and how you recruit. It runs through all of the systems, how you enable people to have holidays. All of these aspects are really important. So know what the vision is, know what your values are, integrate that into all of the systems in the business and the way that you actually operate. And you'll find that the culture of the organization, the way that it operates, then runs from there. Anything that's not working well, know that it stems from something's not right, either in the vision, the values, or the systems that you've put into place and the people. And you can change it, but it has to come from you. You can't expect others to be doing what you're not doing. I met a wonderful businessman on a trip recently, and he owned a distillery in France and in Barbados, and he was like, well, actually, there's a thing about alcohol, but he was like, my thing is, when you share alcohol, you drink in partnership, you have a shot of rum, just one in connection, and it's high quality, then actually it can be a bonding experience. I was like, this is really interesting. But he also chose, because he wanted to foster an environment of inclusion, he chose to fly economy. And he said, I expect we've got a thing where we're using resources wisely, we're trying to minimize our not only our expenditure, but the way that we operate. But I have to do it first. He's like, if I can't expect other people to fly economy if I'm not, right? I can't expect other people to connect with our clients and our customers with heart if I don't, right? So it all starts with us as leaders.
Yeah, and practice what you preach, really, isn't it?
Practice what you preach.
So you talked about your non-negotiables, but what really inspires you to thrive? Like, those are the non-negotiables, but what is on the sprinkle of magic on top to inspire you to thrive?
Okay. So I had a soul sister, Dan, and I want to tell you this story because my relationship with her really sums up why I do what I do. So my soul sister, Susan, when we were little, we're cousins, right? But we decided that we were twins. It's just that we had different mums and we were born 1 month apart, right? So we grew up and we were very, very close. And when we were both 32, she found out she was dying of cancer. And Sue made me promise on her deathbed. She said, I want you to promise to live your dreams, Monica, because I'm not going to be able to. Will you promise me? And, it was very emotive, but it was clear that what she wanted was for her passing to be of value. So I promised. I said, okay, I'll promise to live my dreams. And everything since that time has been about reassessing what I do and getting really clear on whether this is the vision. Am I living the life that's intended for me? Because I'm not going to be here forever. And that's the thing that inspires me to show up in life, to give what I have, to share what I have, to be here. Her making me promise to live my dreams.
It's interesting, isn't it, how important a promise is, and other people, and sorry for your loss with your friend, but, it's nice to hear that you're living on that, relationship that you had, and it's kind of encouraging you to help others. And it's those promises of, sometimes, what would happen if you didn't have Susan in your life? Who could, how, or for somebody who maybe hasn't got a soul sister, how could they find in that purpose?
Yeah, so behind that story is essentially an honouring, I would say, an honouring of the spirit or God of my understanding. So, I'm also trained as an interfaith minister for people who have any faith or none. So it's like recognising, for me, in our story of health, we have our body, we have our mind, we have our spirit, and we have our environment. And all of those parts are essential. And when we look at our our story of health, we look at, well, actually, how am I in my body? What's going on for me physically? If we look at our mind, which for me also includes the heart, it's like, how do I think about myself? What are the thoughts that run through my mind? And my spirit is like, actually, how happy do I feel in myself and connected? What are my essence? Am I connected to? Am I contented with? And then how does that fit into the environment? That's the environment at work and the environment at home. When we look at those and we see which leg of that table is shorter or longer than the other, when we bring balance to those, then it's like life is running. It's not to say it's running smoothly, because there's always things that are happening. But when we've got that sense of, okay, I'm living in alignment with that which wants to come through me, we can thrive, Dan. And it gives us a system. It gives us, this systems come from the Reach approach. It's one of my, my foundational teachings or learnings is from the Reach approach. It's a great organization. So there's these resources that enable us to get clear on all of these aspects of our lives and how we move.
So what would you suggest for us and how we can collaboratively all work together to make society a more thriving, flourishing place?
Okay. We got to recognize what our individual gifts and skills are. When we're really confident and empowered in what we can give, we can collaborate really well, because we're like, this is who I am. I'm here, I'm embodying love, I'm helping people to thrive in healthy, happy relationships. Dan's like, that's really interesting, Monica. I've got my company that makes some incredible videos and shares education and inspiration for people to thrive in life. We've got a collaboration, right? We've got something that fits, but that's because we're both very clear about what we're bringing here to the table. I also believe that collaboration is essential because we're not meant to struggle alone. And when we come together, when we bring different parts, we become greater. Our whole becomes greater than the individual parts.
So you've shared some really good advice and, kind of suggestions about how people can kind of connect with their inner self to share their kind of sort of like love. Mm-hmm. For somebody who's maybe at that point where they understand themselves, how can they start connecting with others to find collaborative partners, people who kind of sort of like maybe are aligned with common sort of goals, common values? How can they connect and embrace, a new sense of community?
Yeah, it comes at the heart of this is courage. So when we're courageous and we reach out without expectation that this is definitely going to happen, but we reach out to make a connection, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We allow ourselves to risk. We open up to a field of possibilities, and this is how we create magic. We trust the inner voice, we're courageous, and we have the conversations and make the connections that we need to, knowing that it's not necessarily the person in front of us who's the person who we'll get to work with, but that person might meet somebody a month down the line and they go, oh, do you know, I met this amazing person last month. I think you two should talk. So when you're open, you have the conversation, you connect, and you share what's in you with another, then true collaboration is possible.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been really good to kind of catch up and hear that you're still on track with your grand kind of vision to help millions of people, to kind of connect with themselves and share love. But it's been great today. I've certainly learnt a few tips and techniques about how I can kind of be just a happier, healthier, friendlier person and enjoy life. So thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome then.